Good evening. For those of you who don't know, I'm Pat Henyon and have had the pleasure of acting as head of school since January with my colleague Evan Coleman. On behalf of the faculty, staff, and administration, it is my pleasure to welcome you to this momentous occasion, the graduation ceremony for the Maine Academy of Natural Sciences class of 2025. A quick reminder to please silence your cell phones, but keep the cameras rolling. Your presence here reflects the collective effort it takes to help young people grow, learn, and prepare for the future. Thank you for showing up today and for all of the ways that you've shown up for these students throughout their time at MeANS. It is my honor to welcome you all to campus today, and I now ask that you please stand and welcome the graduating class of 2025.
Please be seated. Good evening, families, friends, faculty, and of course, the remarkable class of 2025. Over the past few weeks, as I've tried to put into words what the past 4 years with this class have been like, I keep coming back to images. Having grown up in a house with a photographer, I find myself often holding on to images more than words. The images that have filled my time at MeANS with this incredible class have been bountiful and beautiful, ranging from frozen lakes to the cliffs of Acadia, paddles pulling at rivers, and 1-inch plastic figures staged in miniature survival shelters sprinkled around campus. We've dug kilns, built tables and benches, and spent late nights in yurts and tents during our regular overnights. We've constructed shelters and classrooms, planted seedlings and flowers, harvested lumber, carved signs, extracted honey, boiled sap, counted beaks as they poked through eggs in the incubator, and watched our makerspace barn slowly take form, piece by piece, until our blacksmithing and woodworking programs were breathed into life. But I also remember the beginning, when much of what this class would be and what this school would become was just a collection of ideas or a question. I remember our first fall, the vibrant greens of butter lettuce sprouting, the first nails being hammered into and coats of paint applied to our new farm stand, which is still over there with a fresh coat of paint. Nervous hands twisting calico corn kernels from the cob over a communal bowl, unknowingly laying the foundations for the class of 2025. I remember the sound of muffled voices behind masks, anxious eyes filled with uncertainty, the unspoken fear of how and if we could return to some semblance of normalcy after COVID's devastation and isolation. I remember how quickly frustrations bubbled over into anger as we tried to navigate different types of learners and behaviors back in person in a classroom, and just how hard it was that first year to try to rebuild our community as we started here together. But that is what this class has always been about: rebuilding, reimagining, redefining. They are the guinea pigs, the lab rats, the pilots, the pioneers, pivoting and bending, changing course and rolling with the punches, never content with good enough, always asking the difficult questions like, what does meaningful learning actually look like? How can we make this place just a bit better, a bit more? Redefinition. Escaping from my office this past winter, I drove a group of students and faculty to the Augusta Civic Center for a workshop as part of the Can We Project, a statewide initiative focused on revitalizing our democracy by talking across the aisle and listening to voices different from our own. Throughout the day, students joined small groups to discuss their beliefs on a range of topics, from gun control to climate change, abortion to public education. And during one of these workshops, I had the chance to sit and talk with another longtime educator who shared a beautiful word that he had stumbled upon, one that feels crucially important for where we are as a country in this very moment. The word was sonder. It came from John Koenig's The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows and is defined as, quote, the realization that each random passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as your own, populated with their own ambitions, friends, routines, worries, and inherited craziness. An epic story that continues invisibly around you like an anthill sprawling deep underground. As an English teacher at heart, I pocketed it, adding it to my list of favorites next to ephemeral, lasting only for a short time, and petrichor, the smell of rain falling on dry soil. Sonder, the challenge of acknowledging the complexity of each other's lives, of what each of you, seniors, have been through to get to this point, of what each of you, parents, guardians, have sacrificed and fought for to make this moment possible, and perhaps most importantly, of what the faculty and staff to my right have weathered day in and day out, finding sparks of joy and seeds of hope amidst a public education system that is painfully underappreciated, underfunded, and as we speak, dissolving. Sonder. Of all the words you seniors hear today, I hope that you graduates might hold on to these two syllables and consider how much you've learned from the people at this little magical school of ours. How much they have shown you, not just of the natural world, but of the human world, of respect, kindness, and the small, selfless acts that we all know matter so much more than grades and ribbons and even the diplomas that you're about to receive. But for every word like this that carries such depth and hope, there are 100 more that silence and keep us from seeing each other and from connection. Stop. Listen. Pay attention. Most students in Maine and across the US have heard these words in a classroom. For many of the students that come to MeANS, they have undoubtedly had to phase off with these words throughout their schooling, often against teachers or systems that are much more interested in compliance and obedience than in real learning or in human understanding. Hearing them now, even as I read them, stop, listen, pay attention. There is so much aggression and control in these words. Commanding, authoritative, inflexible, a finger in the ribs, a jab, or a slap of the wrist. But if we pause, if we take these words on their own and perhaps separate them from the overcrowded classroom and barking voice of a burnt-out, underappreciated educator from whence they came, I would like to argue that there is value to be found in them and that they have a lot to do with the type of education that we embrace here at MeANS. Stop. Could we not also say pause, wait? In music, a little comma can tell us to take a breath, a moment to let the notes sink in so that we might hear them a little more clearly. A chance to catch our breath, to reflect. At MeANS, there is the daily pause students take on their way to the cafeteria, passing under the shade of trees, watching frogs leap with a splash into the pond. There is the pause that comes with digging hands into dirt, reading a book under the shade of the pavilion, or perhaps marveling as a tilapia rises to gulp down a pellet in its tank. Listen. Through my 4 years with this class, each of you have taught me to listen deeply to what is important. Listen. Could this command instead be an invitation? A hope that we might immerse ourselves in our senses, in the sounds of paddles rippling rivers, the hum of bees in the hive, chisels carving blocks, or wood, ice splintering beneath your feet, flames crackling for the new year at Seton Fireplace, or owls calling out through snow-laden forests. Could this not be a bridge to somebody else? A chance to hold our breath before diving into our own story, to fully hear someone, absorb their flaws and imperfections, the pain people around you might be feeling, the importance to listening to why a voice is different from your own and how you might actually learn something from it. Or could this even be a chance to listen to your own pulse? To heed the tiny voice inside of you that is asking for something different, for something that is not yet there, but coming, or reminding you that something is not right, and that you are capable of change. Pay attention. How might this sound differently if it was whispered? If we heard it as we watched the way the hammer strikes metal and the bar bends, or the magic of finding the blue dot on the back of the queen's head in the hive. If you can stay present in the little things, cooking pasta together in Lennox Lodge kitchen, laughing as you watch one more rendition of I Want It That Way at Coffee House, or just taking a second to experience how much the people in this community care, you may realize that these little moments are the patchwork quilt that makes MeANS different. To parents and faculty, thank you so much for all that you have done and all that you give of yourselves to make this place what it is. To the class of 2025, I feel incredibly grateful for having spent the last 4 years with you here, rebuilding, redefining, and reimagining what public education can be. And as you head out to college, apprenticeships, or maybe careers that might feel overwhelming, I encourage you to stop, take a breath, listen to yourself, and pay attention to the little things. Thank you. I'm Evan, by the way. I don't think I introduced myself. Welcome all. We are going to jump straight into the school awards here. And so students, as you hear these, you may have to walk up here and take an extra large step onto the stage. And I'll just do a little spiel about it, and maybe you'll tell who I'm talking about as I read. So MeANS is built on relationships, and we value everyone for what they contribute. Every year, the faculty present 3 awards that correspond to our core values of respect, responsibility, and community. So the first up is respect. The Respect Award goes to a student who has consistently been respectful to peers, teachers, community members, and the physical environment. They are thoughtful, engaged, and compassionate as they connect with whomever or whatever they are working with. If you've ever encountered this senior in class, maybe at the chicken coop or beautifying our greenhouse, you know the kindness and thoughtfulness that she puts into every interaction and conversation that she has. She is generous, empathetic, and lives out her personal values day in and day out. I would like to congratulate Emily Cromit. All right, up next, the Responsibility Award. This goes to a student who consistently demonstrates command of their actions, as well as the larger learning community. They set an example for others and guide peers onto more positive paths, all while supporting a sense of stewardship towards our natural environment and local community. Beyond her diligence and innovative thinking, this senior has a list of accomplishments that would blow most people out of the water, and is graduating not only with an Envirothon State Championship, but with her associate's degree from KVCC to boot. The Responsibility Award goes to Rose Jadamek. All right. And our final value award is the Community Award. This one goes to a student who embodies the spirit of MeANS. Additionally, this student models volunteerism and community action, consistently putting themselves out there for others and supporting peers when they are in need, attending and leading school events and activities. This year's recipient has indeed led by example throughout his 4 years at MeANS. Whether it be educating Governor Mills on the ins and outs of our school, leading our school community meetings, or interviewing our next head of school, this young man has exemplified what being a MeANS student leader is all about. The Community Award goes to Tucker Emery. All right. The next one is named after someone who's here. Brenda, where are you? 6 years ago, the administration established the annual Brenda Poulin Resilience Award. Brenda has the trifecta of spunk, positive determination, and compassion, qualities that have impacted our community greatly. Through the good times and the bad, this senior has shown her grit and ability to persevere and succeed, always while building powerful relationships with her peers and teachers. Congratulations to Autumn Gagney. In 2019, Tom Tracy, one of the school's founding faculty members, passed unexpectedly. Anyone who knew Tom also knows that he fits the true definition of a lifelong learner, devoting his free time to developing new ideas that would quickly turn into projects. Tom would be glowing to know that MeANS students were choosing to focus their education on entrepreneurship, and would also be extremely proud to know that this scholarship was established in his name. This year's senior plans to continue her entrepreneurial pursuits by learning the art of tattooing at a local company. The Tom Tracy Memorial Award for Entrepreneurial Pursuits goes to Keelan Karagiosis. And our final award before we get to hear from some students. This year, for the first time, we have decided as a faculty to introduce a new award that honors the legacy of my good friend and our former head of school, Matt Newberg. To introduce this award, please help me welcome Matt to the stage. I didn't tell him about this award. Baziko can come too. True surprise. Over the past 5 years, the impact that Matt has had on this school and on our community cannot be put into words. Cultivating a culture of belonging and support with faculty, Matt has raised the academic bar for our students and helped us to fully embrace our mission through outdoor hands-on learning. Whether it be setting up his hammock tent in Acadia National Park, foraging through knee-deep snow in Eustis, or diving into any one of our intensives head first, Matt has always led us by example and immersed himself in nature. It is only fitting that we honor his legacy with the Matt Newberg Award, which celebrates a senior for their commitment to outdoor experiential learning and for their love of the natural world. The natural world. Congratulations to our first ever recipient of the Matt Newberg Award, Logan Doobie. All right, and now I get to stop talking. At MeANS, each member of the graduating class wraps up the year by sharing a personal speech at our senior banquet. Last night, through the heat and the sweat, faculty and family had the opportunity to listen to some incredibly powerful words from each of these graduating seniors, as they reflected on some of the defining moments that have shaped their time here at MeANS. Through tears and laughter, the depth of reflectiveness and care that went into these speeches was truly moving to witness and made our decision as a faculty a very difficult one. But I would like to congratulate and invite to the stage the following 3 seniors to share their speeches: Chloe Strout, Nick Hewitt, and Autumn Gagnon.
All right, some of you have probably already heard this at the banquet last night, but here it goes again. They say high school changes you, but they don't always say how. Not every transformation comes with some grand epiphany or dramatic turning point. Sometimes change can look like quiet mornings in the greenhouse, like muddy boots on the trails, and like laughter and singing echoing off the walls of the school bus. Sometimes it feels less like becoming someone new and more like finally being allowed to be who you already were. Before MeANS, I spent a lot of time building up walls, protecting myself, guarding my ideas, and overachieving in the hope that it would earn me a seat at the table. But here, I didn't need to beg for belonging. It was handed to me like a plate of warm food at lunch or a Hershey kiss from a good friend. I was known here, and more importantly, I got to know myself. There were moments here that felt like a movie, like our trips to Acadia, where I must have taken hundreds of photos, trying to bottle every second in pixels and paper. The mountains, the oceans, the campfires crackling, the laughter of friends against the backdrop of the dense Maine forests. I made scrapbook pages out of these photos, like they were relics of some perfect fleeting world. And maybe they were, because in those moments with my friends, my little found family, I didn't feel like I was chasing anything at all. I was just there, I was present, and I was alive. MeANS gave me these moments over and over again, from short hikes to overnights in Eustis, where the stars felt closer than the ground. Cooking during intensives, flipping pancakes and searing chicken, folding cornets de gazelles like we were seasoned chefs in a sunlit kitchen. Every time, I knew I was part of something special here. I learned more than just what school normally teaches. I learned connection. Connection with the land, connections with others, and most of all, connection with myself. Even the college classes, though they pushed me, not just academically, but emotionally, they taught me that I could be capable and confident and completely overwhelmed all at once. And that's okay. That's growth too. Growth doesn't usually announce itself. It slips in quietly, like a shift in the season or the slow tilt of the sun. Sometimes it's messy and sometimes it's gentle. Sometimes it sneaks up on you in the middle of class or a field trip, or while laughing so hard with your friends your stomach hurts. And sometimes it pounces on your shoulders and leaves you grinning ear to ear, like when you win something you thought was even further out of reach than a dream. In fact, winning the Envirothon was like watching my whole life shift into focus. It wasn't just a trophy or a win, it was proof. Proof that I could succeed in something that wasn't about how fast I could run or how well I could kick a ball around, but something that made my entire soul light up. Environmental science didn't feel like just a subject. It felt like a home. Like for once, the one thing I loved most about the world actually loved me back. MeANS didn't just give me an education, it gave me a home. Not in the sense of 4 walls and a roof, but the way it wrapped around me when I needed it most. It taught me how to fall apart and how to get back up again. It taught me that my voice matters, even when it shakes, that I can be too loud, too passionate, too much, and still be exactly enough. Now I'd be lying if I said this year was perfect. Senior year hit different with the inevitable senioritis, but the feeling that the world was moving too fast and not fast enough at the same time. There were moments I felt forgotten, or like my future was some puzzle that no one could help me figure out. But still, I wouldn't trade this experience for anything, because MeANS isn't just where I went to school, it's where I became. I grew here, in soil that sometimes felt rocky, and under skies that weren't always clear, but I grew. And maybe that's what makes it beautiful, that nothing about it was perfect, but somehow it was exactly what I needed. So thank you to my friends, to my teachers, to my teammates, and my community. You reminded me that I don't have to run from my past or race towards my future. I can just exist right now, right here in this moment, and that's enough. Every time that you've included me, believed in me, let me ramble or cry or just exist, you gave me roots. And now I'm leaving with more than I'd ever thought I'd have. So thank you for giving me a home when I needed one, and for reminding me that even if the world outside isn't always kind, I can be strong and I can grow. So here's to the messy, beautiful scrapbook of high school. Here's to the seeds we planted, the laughter we shared, and the memories I'll keep pressing like flowers between the pages of my mind. Here's to MeANS, and here's to us, class of 2025. We made it, and we made it matter.
Hi there. Every journey begins with a spark. Some call it inspiration. In physics, we call it ignition. At MeANS, I called it freshman year. Back then, I was in a pretty low energy state. If you had spotted me in those early days, you probably would have mistaken me for background radiation. Quiet, awkward, barely making a wave in the system. I orbited the edge of every social interaction, avoiding collisions at all costs. Socially, I was operating at absolute zero. I tried to stay in equilibrium, not drawing any attention, hoping to stay as a stable system for as long as possible. But no system stays closed forever. The forces acting on me were subtle at first. A few kind conversations, a nudge from a teacher, a classmate who pulled me into their gravity well. Slowly, I started gaining momentum. One of the biggest forces acting on me was discovery. Specifically, the moment I looked up and realized how much I wanted to understand the universe. Somewhere between stargazing and late-night thought spirals about black holes, I found my gravitational center, astrophysics. High school, like the universe itself, has this strange way of accelerating you. It stretches you, warps your path, and before you know it, you're light years from where you started. When I think back on these last few years, what stands out isn't one singular moment, but a series of collisions, expansions, and contractions that shaped me like a galaxy forming over time. There were periods of high entropy, confusion, doubt, and failure. But just like in the universe, chaos was part of the creation. I wouldn't be who I am today without the unstable states, the awkward silences, the questions I was afraid to ask, and the risks I finally took. Now, most people don't fall headfirst into the cosmos, but I did. And somewhere along the way, I found a voice, a passion, and apparently an academic rival. So, Rose Jadamick, consider this the beginning of our intellectual arms race. May the brightest star win. Astrophysics became more than a passion. It became a lens for how I understood everything. I started to see the people in my life as celestial bodies, each one exerting their own force, shaping my path. And I owe that transformation not just to the sciences I love, but to the people who nudged me forwards, sometimes gently and sometimes with the unstoppable force of a collapsing star. To my advisor, Jim, thank you. You've been the gravitational constant in my academic universe, steady, unwavering, and always there to stabilize my trajectory. Elise, you've been like a catalyst in my development, jump-starting reactions I didn't